I'm Mari Dangerfield. I'm a half British and half Portuguese artist and producer from London, and this is a short film about me. A little time to tidy up this world because it's on a decline. I've seen it all before my eyes, the part when everything's on. I've always lived in the same neighbourhood in Ealing in West London. So where the music comes from, I would say, is definitely my dad. I grew up with music playing in the house all the time, on the radio or on TV. Mostly classical music, because that's my dad's favourite kind of music. And he also sings. My dad's not exclusively into classical music, but classical music is kind of where I found myself at the beginning. I remember really wanting to learn an instrument when I was maybe 3 or 4 years old. I wanted to learn to play the cello and the piano. I couldn't do both, so I went with the cello. And that was fun for a while, and then I finally was able to have piano lessons and so on as well. I then started having singing lessons because I wasn't fitting in at school. I wasn't making any friends and I was a bit sad, and it was what the teacher suggested to my parents, so that's what I did. And so it's funny because I think of music in exactly the same way now. It's kind of my retreat, my therapy. And then I went to uni. I did a music degree. It's not the most traditional route, I guess, for what I'm now doing, but it was kind of what made sense at the time. At one point during my time at uni, my dad suggested that I go to a songwriting workshop in the Yamaha music store with this lady called Martina Wren. She's kind of more of a jazz artist, but I was interested in learning about songwriting, so I went to it. And so then she gave us a structure that I walked away with, and I decided to write my first song, which ended up being my first single virtually. My mum is a storyteller, a writer, an author, and I would definitely attribute my ability with words, with storytelling and lyrics, to her. From virtually, I can kind of talk to you about the music production part of my journey, which started when I was about 16. I did a summer course in music production, and then after that I kind of taught myself using books and videos online and courses online, and I wasn't really that knowledgeable about electronic music when I was working on virtually. I'd been making music as a band kind of thing before that with a friend, and I didn't really know much about synthesizers or anything like that. But being a fan of David Bowie, I was aware of the stylophone, and so I got myself a stylophone from this secondhand store and started messing around with it, and came up with this interesting concept of recording each individual note. Virtually had this really fast riff in it that I couldn't play on the stylophone in real time. And likewise, this competition that I entered, which kind of led to me using the stylophone in that way for virtually, the music that I was going to cover was a song by Jan Tiersen called Portsquare, and it's a piano part, so again you can't really play it like a piano on a stylophone. So I used that technique for the competition, and I made a video on my birthday on Parliament Hill in London, and I ended up winning the competitions, one of the winners in the Best Non-Piano Performance category. And I got a letter from Jan Tiersen saying thank you, it's up on my wall, and it was kind of a moment for me where I thought, okay, maybe I've got something, maybe I can give this a shot at like releasing my own music and being an artist. So that's where things really started for me. Of course, now there's a stylophone orchestra, which is the coolest thing. I was a part of it when it started out in 2019, and I've been trying to document everything they do ever since, as much as I possibly can. And it's really cool. They've released one album so far. I think they've got another one on the way. It was a really fun thing to be a part of. I think what I write music about will change over time as I develop as a person, and kind of the sound of my music might evolve with it, I feel like. But I think it comes primarily from feeling like a bit of an alien in the world. I've always felt like a bit of an alien, like I don't think, I don't feel, I don't see the world the same way as other people. But also about when I'm really excited about something, like I'm really passionate, I'm in love with something or a person or something, that's also when I can be driven to write. I'm also sometimes driven by kind of an idea. If I get a cool idea for a song, I will try to run with that concept as well, which I guess is why my first album is kind of such a strongly concept-driven album. It has a lot of like reality in it as well, like of what I really experienced in those few years, but it's also for me down to some ideas that I really liked that I worked on for those songs. If there is one single artist that I'm influenced by, it would be David Bowie. I discovered him when I was 14 years old, thanks to my dad, who put a program on TV called Life on Mars. And I heard Life on Mars for the first time. I thought, wow, this is actually really, really good music. And then he got me the best of CD. I listened to that back to front millions of times. And then it went from there. And I've been lucky enough to be involved with Leah Cardos, who is a David Bowie academic and expert. Who's done all sorts of things. I got to work with Tony Visconti, thanks to her, with the Stylophone Orchestra, but also as a kind of observer of his process with tape and just working in general, which was really cool. I am influenced by his kind of daring approach to making music. He kind of doesn't hold back with experimenting with different things over his career, and I just think he writes really, really good melodies, which is what I look for from other songs and other artists and other music in general. A good concept as well. Little bits here and there I kind of cherry pick that really draw me in, either a melody or something else, usually a really strong melody, and that's where I draw my inspiration from. Just everything going on around me, anything that catches my eye or my ear. I guess something that's run as a thread through my music so far has been things that I care about, things that interest me or that worry me about the world. And in my first album, Love and Other Machines, that was technology kind of taking over us, and social media, and I guess relationships, like love and things, how there can be some crossover between the way machines operate and how our brains operate when it comes to relationships and just in general. How you can like link the two concepts. I found that really interesting and explored that in my first album. For my upcoming EP, Eco Fever, I'm exploring climate change. I've always kind of had a real love of nature and of animals ever since I was little. But with climate change, I wasn't that aware of it until I had this thing happen at school. They invited a speaker over to our school to talk about the environment and climate change. It immediately made me want to change what I was doing, change my lifestyle and my attitude to things, but it's been a learning process ever since as to how to actually achieve that. There's so much more to the issue than I can cover in an EP. I like to have the music there as something to express what I feel, and if people take to it and if people find either something to relate to in it, or they learn something from it and maybe become even more aware of climate change or more interested in changing their behaviour as well, then that could be a good thing, and that's all you can hope for, really. I did a show last year online for a charity I really care about called Urban Squirrels. Most squirrels have a very special place in my heart, so I hope that what I do and what I have done can in some ways support grey squirrels and animals. I would like that very much to be an ongoing part of my life, whether as an artist or just a person, because animals are the other love of my life, I would say, besides music. In more recent years, in fact probably about the last couple of years or so, I became aware of the fast fashion industry, kind of what's involved there, why these fast fashion brands are such a problem. I love fashion, and consequently I've been gravitating towards secondhand and vintage fashion quite a lot, which I've been really enjoying. I like the idea of being able to travel as part of being an artist, like going on a tour around different countries. I've done a mini tour in the UK before, so a tour around other countries would be a dream for sure.